I'm Louise Dawes, Group BIM Integration Manager from Kier. It's great to be part of this session. Kier, like others, have been striving to achieve Level 2 BIM over the last several years, and I wanted to give you a little insight into how and what we've been doing to facilitate this change. I don't want to spend ages telling you about Kier, but I would like to put this in perspective how big the challenge is for us. Within Kier, we have a property, residential, construction and services business. Within these, we build, maintain and renew assets. We've got over 15,000 people who we need to engage with and let them know what we're trying to achieve. So one of the key topics for this session was to discuss what's holding back the widespread adoption of BIM on the ground. And it would be great to say that it's one specific factor holding back the adoption, but as many of you will know, and for those who will soon find out, this is not the case. One of the main challenges for us still resides in getting people to change the way they work and making them understand that we can't achieve our personal aspirations without their personal contribution. So awareness, to raise awareness of BIM and information management and to quash any misconceptions. So we decided we needed to give people a foundation level of awareness about Level 2. So in April we released an e-learning course at the same time the government launched the mandate. The content contained the very basics of BIM, making people aware that there are British standards that we should be complying with and PAS documentation there for guidance. At Kier, we do a huge amount of work with government clients, so making people aware of the government mandate was key and supported by our own internal mandate to strive to achieve BIM Level 2 on all projects regardless of a client requirement. So the course is embedded into our internal learning and development portal under the compliance section, and by hosting it on the portal we can track and monitor completion and also target key staff. So we're also keen to capture all new starters to make our aspirations clear from the outset, so that we're requesting people are completing the course as part of their new starter inductions. To date we have had 2,290 people complete the course, which means that we have begun to get the message out there. And commercially, e-learning is really good value for money, as you're really only asking people to set aside 30 minutes of their time with no further downtime or cost for travelling. So we're currently reviewing how to follow up on this e-learning to see if anyone has actually been more actively involved in BIM after the course. And one last point to raise with our online course is also that we've extended our invitation to people who are working on joint ventures with us and to some of our clients too. So we're hoping that this will be of value to those throughout our supply chain, because it's in everyone's interest that we upskill together. So just another thing, keep track of time that you spend delivering training, because we've recently seen an increased amount of tenders that are actually asking to evidence this. So training, to provide training to the right people at the appropriate level. So 3 years ago we invested a lot of time and effort on training people, preparing them to use our common data environment and visual engine. So the intention was to upskill staff to be able to go away and use these new tools in their day-to-day jobs delivering BIM. The training was delivered through a 2-day intensive course, and we've had some success and some long-term engagement with these sessions. However, the training wasn't as effective as it could have been, because really people came in unprepared and had little to no knowledge of why they were being asked to attend the course in the first place. And it was overwhelming. People received training well above and beyond what would have been actually required of them in reality. We lost a lot of traction with these people post-training because we found that the majority of people were not working on projects with a BIM requirement, so they lost momentum and their newly learnt skills, which in some cases led to retraining. With also the additional fact that for some their IT hardware and software wasn't capable of running these new tools, and for some their site internet connections weren't fast enough either. So needless to say, we quickly engaged with our IT teams to investigate the issues and together propose solutions. But that was a little while ago, some 3 years, so now what we're doing, we're providing further targeted led sessions. Project sessions are generally led by our BIM managers and coordinators who already have a good relationship with project team and are also delivering this when the foundation awareness is already there and their IT kit is ready to go. Discipline-led sessions, we're focusing on making training personal and relevant, so it's more pertinent. The only thing I'd like to say with this is that currently we spend a lot of time on a one-to-one basis post these sessions supporting people. So I've been tasked with rolling out further online courses in 2017 to support the task. We've also trialled some shadow training recently, where a planner in one business unit has been successfully using a federated model for sequencing and producing look-ahead charts for installation. So she's presented her findings to other planners in another business unit, and this seemed to be an easier sell, cross-selling planner to planner rather than BIM manager to planner. And in addition to this, we're also rolling out over 1,000 seats for the BRE online courses, for the fundamentals and advanced courses, really targeting key people in the business who we think initially are critical to make BIM Level 2 a success. So looking to embed roles and responsibilities into people's day jobs. I won't go into too much detail about roles and responsibilities. The information can be found out in the PAS documentation, but you really will need to consider who is going to be tasked with fulfilling these roles. We're in the process of translating defined roles and responsibilities from the PAS and wording these slightly differently to enable people to actually understand what is required from them and at what part of design, construction or handover phase. So we're creating task lists for these people to give them clear guidance. And also our BIM execution plans record key project team members who fulfill the information management roles. And we're really starting to focus on monitoring the uptake of this now. So getting people to understand the bigger picture and demonstrate the value it will bring to them. We've put into place a fair few things now that we're hoping will speed the adoption of BIM up. But how do we actually communicate that? At the moment, we're not brilliant at communicating our success internally to get people interested and excited about what we are actually achieving. So people are starting to understand more about BIM but are slow on the active participation, so we need to get more people actively engaged. All of our BIM team are very good at communicating, but we really need the experts to help spread the word. So for us, we're looking to launch an internal marketing campaign in 2017 to sell the value of what we are doing. And we're also looking for more champions to cascade the word into different streams of the business. The other thing we're mindful of, we use the word BIM too much currently, so we're looking to change this, but we're in the process of working out what a good alternative would be so we don't cause any confusion. So we need to be inspiring people. We who work in the digital space attend conferences and events where we get excited about new technologies and we have an insight into where the industry is moving towards, but for a lot of people they don't have this inspiration. So we really need to be showing people what the future may look like and gaining traction this way. So what's the value? So this is a valid question, but this is a little picture in the corner of the way I feel when people ask us to put a value on BIM. In fact, I could feel myself annoyed when I was preparing for this presentation. So apart from some of the benefits that you can see on screen, and by the way, this isn't an exhaustive list, some people need cold hard facts. So we've been developing a BIM reporting tool to start benchmarking and recording key performance indicators. The tool measures BIM deliverables set against projects to see where we are actually progressing. And there are so many factors that can influence whether a deliverable can be achieved, but we really need to start looking at trends and investigating where we might not be reaching our aspirations. And also, again, not forgetting to communicate our successes. Alongside this tool, we're also building a directory of staff capabilities so we can start seeing who is actively participating versus those who are less so, or that we really need to or those that we really need to win over. So assurance to ensure that BIM, the BIM processes and procedures are treated with the same importance to other functions. So I know the jury's out with this one. Some people agree or disagree with certification, as some see this as a money-making exercise. But we really gained a lot from analysing what we've been doing over the last several years, updating documentation and defining robust processes to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to comply with PAS Part 2. And now that we've signed up for the client mark, we have to be proving that we're complying with our own standards. So that's coming for us next year. So to our supply chain, to be able to deliver what our clients require, we work extremely hard and closely with our supply chain partners, and we support all of our project teams very heavily at the moment. We know that everyone is in the same space right now. So the majority of our design work is contracted out, so we need to be appointing consultants and subcontractors who have the capability to deliver information in the way that should be outlined in your project's BIM execution plan, which is responded to your client's EIRs. We recently renewed our capability assessments, which cover all aspects of supply chain participation, and it's really important for us to collect this information to support our supply chain and to be able to anticipate issues, perhaps such as interoperability of software, and how much resource might be required from our side to make a project successful. And yes, we are looking for continued improvement, but understand that many are starting out on their journey. So just a couple of things to look out for with the assessments. Get the assessments done before you make the appointments. And also, if your supply chain then further subcontract this work out, you really want all tiers of the supply chain meeting the same project information requirements. So technology, which technology to use, and will it actually help you deliver useful information? So it's hard not to notice all the new technologies that have been offered on the market. So you've got various common data environments, authoring tools, mobile devices, BIM caves, igloos, headsets. And I would advocate any technology that can improve or influence people to think about working in a digital way. But there are technologies for inspiring through a visual means. And then there are technologies and tools that will also enable you to actually deliver decent asset information to your clients. So whichever technology you choose, you need to understand the limitations of its usefulness. So I'm not sure whether this is about speeding up adoption or making it real for site-based staff. Ideally, your site teams will have received training and IT kit to at least be able to allow them to tap into information saved within a common data environment. But if this is not the case, perhaps install a screen and display the model out. So if this is the case, install a screen and display the model, or print out extracts or shots from information captured against it, like 4D sequencing. But really the message here is just get the information displayed somewhere and making it real to people on site. There are real opportunities for site teams to take advantage of graphical and non-graphical information that has been federated during the design phase. So we've got teams using forms for various tasks such as site progress reports, snagging, clear up notifications, and we need to be encouraging our site teams to use mobile devices to carry out their tasks in 3D or a 2D environment. And it's also possible to monitor true engagement by getting or asking for usage reports from your software providers. Some of our site teams are also working on temporary works models and zoning for health and safety reasons, and actually more recently asset tagging, so tagging barcodes out on site and relating this back to models in the common data environment. So lastly, really, don't wait for a client mandate. So don't wait for the client to mandate the use of BIM. Deliver BIM on projects where there's no client requirement, because you're really likely to learn a lot the first time round, and it's probably not best to try something new where there is actually a real client requirement. So we review all tenders that come into the business, and they go through a BIM gateway process where we assess client requirements, procurement routes, supply chain capabilities and internal resource. Each one of these may have an influence in deciding if a project can actually be delivered using BIM. So yes, we'd love everything to be level 2 within the business, but if this is not possible, then the message here is just to start somewhere. So thank you for listening, and I hope this has given you a little bit of an insight as into what we're doing at Kier. If anyone would like to see a recent case study that was produced by the B1M team for us, then it will be followed up in the communications after this webinar. Thank you very much.
Much of the value of BIM is derived from improving collaboration, but improving collaboration is really challenging to execute beyond design into construction and through the supply chain. Just a little background about myself. I actually started out in the AEC industry in the supply chain working for a Herman Miller dealer. And so a lot of my experience comes from seeing firsthand the challenges that subcontractors face. I made the move over to the technology side about 9 years ago. And in making that move, I was truly hoping to help educate and solve some of the challenges that I had experienced downstream myself personally. Just to give us a sense to kind of set the stage, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but to give us a sense of these shared perspectives or this downstream perspective, I thought I would pull up the most recent farmers report that and it appears from kind of digging into it that the US and the UK are in very similar situations facing the same challenges, that making the argument for BIM or even for migrating to digital workflows is difficult to make it compelling enough for those downstream to adopt. In the newly released Farmer Review of the UK construction labor model, they had a really interesting quote that I thought I'd pull out for this. They state that the survivalist business model, the absence of alignment between industry and client interests, and the incentives and means to invest are really at the heart of the problem. And if you look at this chart that I've kind of put here, you'll see that the investment in R&D for construction is dismal at best. And a big part of this challenge is the lack of investment to solve the issues facing construction. I truly believe that the question we should be asking ourselves is, what are we doing to align incentives with the mandate to ensure that the requirements are achievable for all project team members, even downstream? A big part of incentivizing those downstream means recognizing the realities of their economies. There was another quote that the review stated that I thought was relevant to our discussion today, and it was, put simply, much of the industry does not make enough money, or where money is being made, feel enough confidence it will stay profitable into the future. The consequence is underinvestment in training and development, in innovation, and in raising productivity. And if you follow this trend line here, you can clearly see that there are moderate gains in productivity, but overall, we're really not raising the bottom line effectively. Now, if we take a step back and compare these to global reports, we see a bit more optimism. In a 2015 McGraw-Hill Construction Smart Market Report, which Bluebeam helped sponsor, we see that globally, contractors are recognizing the value of BIM. You see the stats here on the screen. So between embracing collaborative nature of BIM, enhancing visualization to improve ROI, and the value of BIM helping that relationship between designer and contractor and owner, these are the tangible pieces that they're taking away. And it's this puzzle piece that Bluebeam is focused on solving, how to improve visualization, collaboration, and build trust through transparency downstream. I truly believe that in order to incentivize the supply chain to adopt BIM, we must look at equations like this. BIM plus collaboration technology equals transparency, less rework, and improved workflows. Just as way of introduction, for those of you, and I saw in the chat box, somebody just chatted and said, what is Bluebeam? Bluebeam is a company that was created to solve this challenge back in 2002. And the goal was to enable workflows digitally and as a byproduct, improve the inefficiencies which are rampant in our siloed workflows. Bluebeam as a company was founded in 2002, and it leverages the open file format of PDF, really focused on democratizing project information, making it accessible to all. Over the last 14 years, we've built in functionality specifically focused on construction workflows. So design review, submittals, requests for information, quantity takeoffs and estimation, 2D and 3D coordination, site planning, snagging, closeout, and handover. All of these workflows can be done digitally leveraging the PDF. Just a quick short story. 2 years ago, I heard Malcolm Taylor, who is the head of technical information for the Crossrail project, give a presentation on how he leveraged technology to coordinate this massive project. And when he got to the point in his presentation where he talked about sharing information from the designer to the field, he put up a slide and it said, "Behold the PDF." And it was actually one of the first times that when I was overseas that I actually heard somebody speak to the power of PDF. PDF has truly evolved into one of the key information exchange platforms for AEC. Why? Well, few things. It's an open platform. You don't need specialized software to view it, and nearly everyone already uses it, which is key. 2D and 3D data can be shared downstream, and through leveraging hyperlinks, you can create navigable drawing sets, making it easier to get to information, which I think is key when asking people to change. In 2008, Adobe Systems submitted the PDF to the ISO standard, and PDF reference 1.7 became ISO 32000. Bluebeam sits on the PDF reference committee in order to ensure that the features that are imperative to AEC workflows are included in that ISO standard moving forward. Most importantly, it can take information and data from multiple systems and make it accessible to everyone. With advancements in PDF, we've been able to leverage it as a bridge, or if you think of it as a stepping stone to BIM. And Level 2 BIM at its heart is about removing the barriers to collaboration, mandating the use of a common data environment where visual, graphical, and metadata are accessible to all. We built Studio so all project partners could collaborate on the same drawing at the same time without worrying about maintaining a paper trail, or what we call here in the CYA in the US, cover your trail or cover your assets, if you will. The idea is for controlled collaboration, which is key. Each project team member makes their own digital comments, marks up the drawing, sees other comments, but only the owner of the comment can revise or edit their markups. What it allows is project teams to build trust through transparency. And I think we all know this. Our industry has learned to account for errors due to lack of visibility. And some partners have even built that into their profit margins, counting on the delays, counting on the miscommunication. But one of the beauties of BIM Level 2 is the goal is to avoid those errors through the right information, going to the right person at the right time and the right format. That's a phrase Nigel Davies says that I absolutely love and borrow from him all the time. So just to give you a sense for adoption, in the U.S., we have seen adoption raise to 94% of the top U.S. contractors currently using Review. And ideally, the goal is to communicate more clearly, which speeds up project tracking and allows for less rework. So just to step through some of these numbers, and these are numbers that were reported to us by customers. So on average, 40% of contractors are tracking their projects faster, 60% report a speed up of project communication, and a whopping 85% are able to reduce paper on their projects. I think these are the benchmarks that we should look for when rolling out initiatives and marrying technology with workflows. Now, I think we'll get on to the most important part right now, which is really talking about how this is done. In order to gain adoption and increase project productivity downstream, the technology must enable the workflows, not require construction professionals to reinvent the way they work. I think it's just change management 101. Start where you are today and then migrate from there. So it's important that interfaces are defined based on the work each individual does. Standardized comments and markups are made on drawings, therefore leveraging the metadata created during construction in more meaningful ways. Tracking who said what and when automatically builds in accountability and provides the necessary audit trails. And ensuring that rich design data in 2D and 3D formats is accessible downstream, truly making the most of ISC. Let me briefly walk you through each of these. We have a context-driven interface, standardized markup, data tracking. Let's go through each of these. So profiles. The idea is that depending on the work you're doing, if you're an estimator or you're doing design review, the work that you do, the tools that you need are different. Creating predefined profiles that can be created once and then deployed across a project allows each individual users to feel that the technology is customized to what they're doing. Tool chest is similar to the idea of creating a symbol library. So as you comment and mark up a drawing, rather than having to reinvent and redo that comment every time, save it to a tool chest. And here you'll notice there's actually a color coding of those comments. One of the trends that we're seeing is that customers will create custom tool sets, one for architecture, one for MEP, one for structural, so that as people are commenting, there is also a visual cue to show the difference between who's commenting, and more importantly, it allows those comments to become standardized so the metadata attached to them can be used more meaningfully downstream post-design. Markups list. This is truly something that I would have loved to have had when I was a subcontractor. It marries the visual reference point of the drawing so you understand the context of the comment. But within the program is this paginated list that neatly outlines who made the comment, what is the comment, where is it located, what was the date, and you can even use this then as a checklist to go back and back-check your work, setting statuses as to when things are completed, if they're incomplete, really leveraging that Excel-like power within this digital visual interface with the graphical information. And then this is probably one of the most exciting, which is being able to take ISC and use 3D and create a 3D PDF. So what you see here is we took a section of a 3D model. This happened to be from Revit, and we exported it as ISC, and then you're able to put it into the PDF, either as the full page of the PDF or as a section on a 2D drawing, so you'd have the 2D, 3D combo. What you see on the right-hand side is all the metadata that came through from Revit to the PDF, so that as that person clicks on specific elements within the model, they can actually see the metadata attached to it. When you share this downstream with a trade partner, the value of them being able to digest and understand that 3D information now becomes infinitely more valuable. You can even create animations so that you simulate assemblies and really give clear direction as to how something is supposed to be put together in the field. And then finally is this concept of controlled collaborations, which is a built-in feature into Review called Studio. And Studio is something that if you own the software, you own Studio. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for additional storage. It's included in the product. So this idea of controlled collaboration, as you see here, the graphic, you can see the different colors from the different participants, but on the right-hand side is a record of every single comment with a time stamp and a unique number identifier. So you actually, as you collaborate, you also create a audit trail that, if needed, could even stand up in a court of law should you need to get to that point. So people are no longer focused on controlling what they say. They're now focused on collaboration. So just to give you a sense for adoption, and I think this is really truly where you can start to see the effect it's having. And these are our numbers. They're global numbers, but these are just adoption numbers overall. So we have over 500 sessions and projects that are created daily with over 3 billion collaboration comments. And Studio has two parts, just to be clear: sessions, which is live collaboration, real-time collaboration, and projects, which is unlimited document storage so that you could store documents in the cloud. This is just a snapshot to give you an idea of how many sessions, projects, and posts we have. But a data point that I think may be more meaningful, there were 19 million drawings and documents stored and collaborated on Studio this year. Or another way to look at this is a compounded year-over-year growth over the last 3 years of 118%. Over that same time period, we've seen PDFs used in collaboration totaling just over 3 million in 2016, or a year-over-year growth of 70%. So we really feel like these numbers are a reflection of the value technology can bring when providing a low barrier entry point for everybody to participate and collaborate. I thought I would just quickly, I know I'm running out of time, so I thought I would just quickly give you a project perspective, so it's not just my voice that you're hearing. This is a project at AZ St. Martin Hospital in Belgium. It was a government-subsidized, not quite fully public-private partnership project, but the partners were obligated to follow the rules applicable to government instances since they were going to benefit through subsidies on the project. One of the challenges that they faced in this project team was that there are currently no standards in Belgium for BIM or technology suites that need to be developed. So one of the things that they really needed to do was ensure that the information from the complex BIM programs could be properly translated and sent to the field, marking up drawings digitally. And trust and collaboration, that was another part. They really truly needed to get collaboration because they needed project approval for drawings. So what was the solution? MBG developed an all-new tech suite, and oftentimes it's not a single bullet answer. You have to compile the best product for the best part of the job. So they created a suite integrating Revit, Buzzsaw, Appleplan, Tekla, Navisworks, and Bluebeam Review. Review's interoperability really allowed the program to keep and convert complex 3D information into tangible ways that people could consume downstream. Bluebeam also was used to create digital PDFs that could be translated to field by the tablet, which provided them this timely, crucial design information and allowed for the most recent changes in information to be passed, eliminating the paper. You'll see here in the picture that they used a big touchscreen in the field, which allowed them to transfer their AO size plans to a one-to-one scale so that it wasn't a huge barrier of change for those who were visualizing and consuming the information. And it really helped the field to adjust to that digital way of working. Despite this being the first BIM project for MBG, they were able to complete this project on schedule. And I think the quote by the project lead, Ben Spervowitz, I think is perfect. So if I can for just a moment, I want to quote him. He said, quote, "For this project, there were a lot of test cases coming together. We had the screen and BIM and Bluebeam Review, and I think these will become standard practices in our future jobs. 30 or 40 years ago, you were a top 5 contractor if you had 1,000+ workers. And now you're a top contractor if you write the best solutions for your client. So there has been a shift in the construction industry from labor to knowledge-based competition." And then one of the final things he said, and this is totally self-plugging, but I love his statement, which is, "I believe this software should be used like Word and Excel. I use Bluebeam every day." So that's totally self-serving, but I think it really sums up nicely the the value and the enthusiasm that comes with giving technology that really meets the contractor and the subcontractors where they live. So just quickly to wrap it up, change doesn't happen alone. Change happens when there are lots of minds looking towards the same end. And so for mobilizing change, volunteers really do make a difference. Because we're talking about BIM Level 2 in the UK, I thought I could show you some of the things that are happening on the standard front in the US. The Construction PDF Coalition is a grassroots group of general contractors, designers, and owners who have come together to create a guideline for creating smarter PDFs or consistently creating quality digital documents for the field. I've included some of their contact information here should you care to look into it, to get involved. But we're really starting now to reach across the pond and talk with our colleagues who are in the same boat as we are to make them aware of this movement and hopefully improve and make smarter PDFs for everyone. And then also a nice win for the coalition, their guidelines have most recently been adopted and included in the Building Smart Alliance's National BIM Guidelines for Owners. This just went through its first review cycle and should be published coming the 1st of 2017. And it was great to see owners adopting these guidelines as part of their movement and their support of creating smarter PDFs. So these are just a few of the things that we wanted to share with you. I'm sure I've went just a minute or two over time, and appreciate that very much. But hopefully, hopefully you've had some good, strong takeaways from this portion.
BIM Level 2 is a series of domain and collaborative federated models. So by domain models, we mean perhaps an architectural model, a structural model. So from a commercial point of view, and legal point of view, not a lot's changed. The models in Level 2 consist of both geometrical data and the non-graphical data. And again, they're prepared by different parties, but within the context of a common data environment. And that's a key thing we've got to think about. Level 1 BIM needs that common data environment. So if we don't have a common data environment, we're not doing Level 2 BIM, or indeed Level 1 BIM as well. But some of the key thing is the information exchanges between these various parties will be very much through defined and validated output. So if you like a series of digital transactions that are very much in a structured and reusable form. So we've got that in terms of the UK. We've got Level 2 BIM and it's well defined. And it's also made up by a series of standards as well. So, and I would encourage people to go to the British Standard website and actually have a look at them. So it's worth reminding us, so Level 1 BIM, we have two standards within there. We've got BS 1192-2007 that looks at collaborative working practices, our common data environment and the standard procedures. And we've also got BS 7000 design management. So in terms of where Louise says, actually, is it always going to be Level 2? Well, actually, I think for me, Level 1 is really important. That we need to get that Level 1 piece and place that foundation before we move into that world of Level 2. When we do move to Level 2, I think it's fair to say most folk have heard of the standards for information management during capital exchange as 1192 Part 2. But it's actually a lot wider ranging within there as well. Level 2 BIM also includes that concept of soft landing through BS 8536, Part 1 and 2. We've also got data exchange and validation in Part 4. In terms of the exchange between client and the supply chain, it uses COBE UK. And we also have very much a security-minded digital working standard as well in Part 5. So all these components together make up Level 2 BIM, but it's key and important to remember it builds upon Level 1. So what are some of the key things we've learned? I think one of the things we've been part of the UK programme is keep it simple. Keep it appropriate to you as well. I mean, we heard from Louise about trying to make it in terms of personas, something that's easy to navigate. I think one of the key things we often forget is we often talk about the technologies, we talk about the aspect of modelling, but Level 2 BIM is very much about information management, Focus on becoming data-centric. Start to think also in terms of the whole life. Don't just think about that design and construct period as well. And I think that's really important. We also heard that thing, do we call it something else, other than BIM, another acronym? And I think that's a key challenge. I mean, in the UK, I think it's really helped that we've used levels of maturity and focusing very much with them. And one of the things I think that the standards do very well is to make sure we are using the same terminology. You know, we've got about 2.5 million people in the UK in terms of construction. It's important we all call it the same thing. We all use that same terminology, and I think the standards have really helped do that one. I think that's been key. It's also important within level 2 that we think about this is often contractual. It's often in design appointments now. It might be for a protocol, it might be some Z clauses, but we've got to think a lot more about information requirements coming in from the client and the client's agent. We've also got to think about becoming smarter in how we respond, not just through BIM execution plans, but also in terms of master information delivery plans as well. And these standards, methods and procedures for BIM as well, all really, really key to what we do. So if we think about some of the delivery components for level 2, we're talking about models in the proprietary form. We're talking about the exchange of the non-graphical data, such as COBie, and we're talking about the PDFs as well that are going to be cut purely from the models as well, really important. We also heard the talk about training, that challenge of skills and knowledge, and I think it's an important piece that we do think about information management as a key component of that one. And later, in 2007, UCAS, United Kingdom Accreditation Services, have been challenged by the BIM Task Group with there as well, just to think about how we start to think about that. Is it at project level? Is it organisation? But really, really important to get that sorted as well. I think some of the big things as well is we don't think about level 2 in isolation. We've got to think, Sasha showed some of the big savings we get through BIM, but it's often how we couple BIM onto other things as well. It might be in terms of design for manufacturing assembly, but we've got to start to think about how we couple BIM onto other aspects as well, such as project management, procurement, and don't think about it in isolation. And I think that's going to be a big, big part. It's also worth thinking about as well. There's some aspects as well that we're thinking about as well. Many folk will have heard last year the announcement by the UK government is moving towards level 3 BIM in Digital Built Britain. So what we are seeing is this is not just, if you like, stop at level 2 BIM. It's a continuation. We are thinking very much in terms of a journey and not a destination in terms of where we're going. So we've heard from two wonderful speakers. What I would say is please have a look at the BSI Level 2 BIM websites, have a look at the standards, keep it simple, keep it data-centric, and think about modelling. Level 2 BIM can be hard and it can be quite challenging, but it's really key that we become good at defining information and become good at delivering upon it. And one of the key words as well is validation. And please, there's one key word when we think about this, and I think we sometimes forget about it. It's actually that word collaboration as well. So thank you, Tom.
Well, incentives, I don't know if you can call it an incentive, but we have an internal mandate within Kier to be driving and striving for the delivery of level 2 on all projects. So yeah, I don't really know whether you could call it I mean, I would think that, you know, hopefully it's encouraging people to take it seriously what we're doing, and, you know, we're just really trying to make engagement with people within the business right now to really prove the value of what we're doing, and sometimes I don't think that that's best at what we're doing at the moment. So we really need to be incentivizing people by really showing the value of what we can achieve. We have, you know, different areas of pockets of success, so we need to be sharing that across our business and really be just promoting what we're doing internally.
Louise comes from Mohammed, and he just asked, is it fair to say you're adopting a bottom-up approach for the implementation of BIM as opposed to top-down?
Well, the bottom up, yes, because we need to get the foundation set, and we really are trying to sort of embed these roles and responsibilities into people's everyday jobs to be able to do that. But we are top down. We need influencers within our business, you know, the people who who are more influential to be driving that. So we're kind of going from a bottom up, top down squash them people in the middle to sort of approach, if that makes sense. So it's neither one or the other. You know, our workforce, you know, the majority of people are at bottom level, and then we need to be, you know, really engaging with those people, and then just having the influences to support us with our
Great, so an all-round
really.
approach. One from me though, Louise, do you think it's the people at the bottom, let's say, it's probably a harsh way of saying it, but the people lower down the organisation who are harder to reach than possibly the people at the top of the organisation?
No, I think it's probably the other way around. It's the people right at the very top, the, you know, executive level, they're all fully supportive. People at the bottom can see the value, and then you've got the middle tier who are extremely busy in their everyday roles and already hold, you know, a lot of responsibility, and it's really getting them to be able to take the time out to understand what we're trying to achieve, I think. I don't think people dispute what we do, but I think people don't necessarily understand what we're doing. So they're the people we really need to target.
From the top and from the bottom, trying to squeeze the middle, as you said. So another question from Andy, who I believe is one of your colleagues, Louise, but not to you, for Sasha. He asks, do you think it's possible for PDFs to carry intelligence from the models they are created from, much like Autodesk DWFX formats, which is a closed format? So that's one for Sasha.
Yeah, Andy, that's a great question, and the answer to that is yes. So part of why the Construction PDF Coalition organized themselves was that as they started to find more intelligence in the PDF and started to find it more valuable to translating information to the field, they just wanted more data and more information. So anybody who publishes PDF can publish as much as that design software allows to be available through their API. So the coalition is currently, we just met at Autodesk University in Las Vegas last month and had a closed-door meeting with Autodesk to say, hey, these are some of the things that we need. We need additional metadata. We'd like additional object data. And so Autodesk has come to the table and is now listening, looking to engage and say, okay, what information do you need? And then internally going in, looking at their products and their APIs in order to make that information available, and then hopefully allowing Bluebeam to be able to publish that and any other.
Philip Kirby asks, will tendering change in the future to use more digital information, interactive PDFs, etc., as I don't think clients are getting the most out of tenders currently? That's probably for Sasha, but if David, Louise wants to chime in, go for it.
Hi, so yeah, we are using modeling at tender stage. We've seen a great deal of response, you know, from our clients with this, and actually, you know, as soon as we can get models in the common data environment we use, we can start essentially populating that project information model and asset information model as soon as, you know, we get models into our system. So for us, as soon as we can get those models at early stages, we can start making value of them, not just only for us, but also just give our clients that foresight for, you know, actual the 3D environment as well.
And I would add to that, as if we, even as you follow that further down the food chain, I was recently visiting one of our customers who was leveraging Studio to pay out subcontractors. So as the subcontractor was completing the work, they would mark a status with a markup on a PDF, the work that was being done. Then the superintendent was going through the job site, walking the job site, and would confirm that status as they walked the job site. That information then went back to the main office for that person in accounting, who could real time see as these items were closed out and then issue payments to the subcontractors. This became a hugely popular method of, you know, looking at all the way downstream to closing out and paying and getting paid, because sometimes subcontractors, or there's a hierarchy of or favoritism with that contractor, whereas here it was transparency of the data that allowed them to get paid more quickly. So the more a contractor was willing to jump into this common data environment and digitally set the status to their work, the faster they got paid. So as you start looking at this all the way down the food chain, I think there is absolute value for how it's setting costs of projects, assets, et cetera, as well as to close out.
One of the things I would say, I think it's certainly revolutionising, especially level 2 in terms of the tender stages. I think we're putting better information out into the supply chain. We've got better models, we've got better data from the models. And what that's meaning is we're seeing better prices coming back from the supply chain. They understand it better, they understand the model, they've got more robust and shareable data. And I think one of the big things is we're seeing a lot of de-risking of tender packages as well. And I think the big thing about level 2, I think it's letting the more specialist, if you like, engineering contractors, suppliers, be introduced into the tender process a lot earlier, especially if they get good quality data about their product, especially data that's maybe got performance data within it as well. So I think level 2 is certainly really helping make the savings. Indeed, I mean, you look at UK government alone, the value proposition between departments has been roughly between 12 and 20% savings in the CapEx stage, and most of that's been during that tender period.
Thanks, guys. A couple of people have been talking about the cost of BIM, which for many parties, which is obviously an issue that gets talked about a lot. A question from Jack Simcock asks, one of the main issues of BIM integrations, most smaller companies and management consultancies are wary of BIM and the cost of the software as it lags behind in terms of current technologies. The software is too expensive. Do you think that that's a problem when looking at the industry as a whole, that BIM-specific software is expensive? I suppose that's probably best answered by David, who's got a good broad overview of the industry.
Well, it's an interesting question. I think we're seeing a lot of early adopters now giving real value that made that technology provision. What I would say though is one of the things we're doing, I chair the Scottish BIM working group, with their helping look at the Scottish Government's aspirations. What we're about to launch next year is a return on investment calculator for the client to look at BIM, and actually as they're building their budget, look at the considerations for investment. Do I have to allow for a common data environment? Do I have to maybe allow for an information manager? Is there going to be any enhancement for cost? And then compare that to return on investment that they're going to give back for it. So I think the intelligent client will always look at that return on investment. And indeed, there's always an opportunity, I think, for the supply chain to obviously put it into their tender. But at the same time, look in terms of, you maybe got one side that's saying, okay, I maybe got a cost, but actually what am I going to give my client back in that tender through that positive return on investment? It might be in terms of optimization of program and prelims. It might be in terms of savings and risk contingency. But we see most organisations realising there might be an investment, but at the same time they'll also work it out in terms of what are the benefits to offset it they can give back to their client.
Great, David. Now we're drawing to a close. We've just got a minute left. So just one question, but if each of you gives a 30-second answer. Quite broad, but try and keep it short on your end, guys. So what is the one largest issue that you believe is restricting people from using BIM and applying BIM actually on the ground, on site? So if you go through in the order that you spoke, so Louise first.
It's just the engagement from the people side of things. We need to be selling the value of what we can be, how we can be changing, people's way of working to make it better for them and not seen as overcomplicated. So really focusing on the tasks in hand that will improve the way that they work and draw efficiencies on that, really.
I echo that completely. A very good friend of mine, Nathan Wood from Spectrum AEC, I think says it best. We suffer from a with me issue, which is what's in it for me. And much like Louise says, it's about recognizing the needs of each person in the project at their position and their level, and making sure we can articulate what's in it for them, how they can benefit from it, and making sure that we're positioning the people, the process, and the technology together to support each other.
I would say the biggest thing, this is digitized is the biggest, I think, behavioural change. And I think it's just a fact that we're starting to think about doing things differently. So, technology, process, I think that we're certainly getting there. It's still very much that massive behavioural change and just trying to do things differently and more collaboratively.
Perfect, and that draws us nearly to a close. Thanks everyone who's joined us from all around the world. I see Kenya, USA, various places in the UK where people have tuned in to listen to us. So I hope everyone got something useful from the webinar. Especially thanks obviously to Louise, Sasha and David, to the presenters today. Obviously they had a lot of interesting stuff to say, and hopefully we'll be doing another webinar soon so you can join us on that as well.